Yeah. No, I mean, you know, I think the secret to my career is I don't know what I can't do. So, you know, there are times when I should probably sit and think, do I really want to jump out there with Philip Seymour? I mean, with John C. Reilly and sing, you know, The Night Chicago Died, or do I really want to play the blues with Little Ed, or you know, and you just do it. You just do these things, and
you become the audience wants you to do these things.
Yeah, I think what's I don't know what it is, but I think over the years people have gotten comfortable with the notion that I try things.
It's almost Plimpton-esque.
And they're not worried about me. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the key. People aren't worried about me getting hurt because I can, you know, I'll give it 100%. And then if it completely falls on its face, I'll laugh about it and move on. And I think there's a little bit of a sense after all these years, people say, you know, all right, he tried it. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't work, but he had a good time.
And for you, you can come back the next night and the next night and the next night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, I don't know. There's a, over the years I've realized that there are a lot of comedians that are very, you know, worried about keeping their dignity intact, and keeping their personal space and keeping their sense of authority. And for better or worse, and it might be worse, I don't have that. You know what I mean? I'm not the people that I've always liked growing up, and I'm not just talking about late night comedians. I'm talking about anybody in movie, in film, and you know. The people I liked, Peter Sellers, they
would let it all hang out.
You just go, you know. If you look at a lot of those old classic Carson clips, he's jumping into hot tubs with Don Rickles. Right. He's jumping through fake walls. He's, you know, he's falling on his ass. He's dressed as Floyd Turbo, and you know. So sometimes I look back to that and I remembered, well, you know, Johnny just went for it. So you know, for better or worse, you know, I'll try. I'll get out there, and I'm very physical, and my wife is always horrified. I'm always coming out of the shower just covered in bruises, and she'll say, "What was that?" And I'll say, "Oh, I did a bit. You know, we had, you know, Jeff Garlin on the show, and he and I rolled down a flight of steps, you know, and I hit a fire hydrant."
It is said about you that you first saw the Carson show when your father would watch it every night.
Yeah, my dad was one of the earliest fans of late night TV, because my dad's a doctor, and he said when he was early in the 50s, when these shows were just starting, Steve Allen was just getting started, he was up then. He was always in a hospital, residency, or, you know, he's always stuck somewhere, and he was always, you know, in a tiny room with a tiny black and white television, watching Steve Allen, then Parr, then Carson. And my father would always say the same thing: "I'll just watch the monologue. I've got to get to bed." He'd wear this this old green robe that we just got him to throw out like a year ago.
Does he still teach at Harvard Medical School?
He does. He does. Well, right now he's working a lot with a project that he's been working on for a long time on antibiotic resistance and trying to map it. And he'll be horrified if I try and explain it, because I'll butcher it. But so you'll have him on tomorrow to talk about it.
There's no show business in your family.
God, no. No, I was as far removed from show business. I didn't know you could. I didn't think that you could have a career in show business. I'm still not convinced, by the way. But I didn't know for the longest time. You know, I didn't think it was something people did. I had no idea. I loved show business when I was a kid. I loved the idea of being an entertainer, but I put it all aside. I thought that's insanity.
But what did the Harvard Lampoon, what did that do for you? What did that tell you?
The Harvard Lampoon, when I got on the Lampoon, I was 18. And, you know, I came to college, I came to Harvard, and like everybody, am I going to have an identity? Am I going to get lost in a sea of these brilliant people? What do I have to offer? And I was the only person selected that year, the only freshman selected to be on the literary board for my writing. And I remembered suddenly feeling like, wait a minute, that's an identity, and why did they choose me? Maybe this is something I could do. And the big revelation to me on the Lampoon was that you could. Up till then, I've always been a really hard worker. I think that might, you know, I come across as this happy-go-lucky I'm an extremely hard worker, and I'm very intense. And up until then, everything I had achieved in life had been backbreakingly hard for me. You know, I felt like I had taken a huge effort to get good grades and to write a good paper and to do well. It had all been a lot of effort and a lot of anxiety. The Lampoon was the first thing I did in my life where I exceeded, and it felt effortless to me. Yeah. You know, I'd write something down, or I'd come into a room and say something, and everybody would laugh. Yeah. And when you're 18, the upperclassmen are 21. A 21-year-old, when you're 18, is an adult. They're
sure.
And I remembered thinking, these adults are taking me seriously, and they seem to perk up when I come into the room. Then they put me in charge of the magazine at a very early age, and so all that had a big effect on me. It made me think, wait a minute, maybe there's another way to go. Maybe I could do something that actually isn't agonizingly difficult and depressing. Maybe I could do something that I enjoy doing for a living.
When you become host of The Tonight Show, how will it be different?
You know, it's such a hard thing to talk about because I'm the worst person to answer that question, because I'll be in it and I'll be doing it.
And you'll find out.
I will find out, and people will find out with me. I will start by doing the best first episode of The Tonight Show I can do, and then I'll try and do the best second episode. But, you know, I'll be a few years older than I am now when that finally happens. I think it's 2030. This is all good.
I think it's 2009.
It's 2009.
You'll be how old in 2009?
I'll be 46. I'll just turn 46.
You'll go to Los Angeles to do the show?
You know, no one specifically said yet, and things can always change, but my assumption is, you know, Johnny moved it there in 1972, and it's not broke, so maybe you don't try and fix it. You know, it's been a strong franchise. It's been a real Hollywood franchise, so I think, and maybe that could be good for me. It might be good for me to move out there. It might be a creative kick in the butt.
But you don't think you need a creative kick in the butt?
I always think I need it.
Do you really?
Yeah, I mean, I just think by the time you're constantly looking for ways to
get better,
and you're constantly looking for ways to approach it in a different way.
Jay has been gracious about this.
Extremely gracious about it, yes.
What kind of conversations did the two of you have when this came down?
He could not have been nicer to me about it, and actually went out of his way to dispense or dispel any awkwardness that might be there. And
that somehow he'd been forced out and wasn't happy.
Yeah, he never ever gave me that indication in any way, and look, I'm not privy to everything. I don't, there are probably people out there that know a lot more about this than I do. I've, from my end, tried to keep it very simple, which is, would you like to host The Tonight Show in 2009? Yes.
If they had not given it to you, would you have walked away?
Oh, that's a big if. It really depends. You know, at a certain point, I don't know. At a certain point, I might have thought, I know Letterman felt the same way in '92. He felt, 12:30 at night. There comes a point in time when you wish you could be on a little earlier. There's so many times that people come up to you and say, once you've been on for 13 years, as we were saying, you and I were chatting before the show, drinking Coronas, and it's your ritual, I guess.
Well, we try to go through that with everybody. It's a lightening up experience.
Wearing Madras shorts.
It's a lightening up experience.
Yeah. So anyway, there's this feeling that I'm always meeting people that say, Conan, I watched you in high school, I watched you in college, but I have a job now or a wife or a kid, and I can't stay up that late. I wish, So there is a feeling, I guess, that wouldn't it be, nice to be on a little earlier?
If someone came